Baby, you are gonna go broke showing turkeys like these.
Now we're talking turkey.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker.
It's turkey time. Gobble, gobble.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Let's Talk Turkeys. This is part 2 of our coverage on Hollow Man, and I'm being joined by Nick from theshice.com and the podcast Bad Movies We Love. This is our final episode of Season 4. We will be back for a Season 5. We are taking the month of January off, possibly a week or two in February, but there will be episodes releasing because our former Patreon had all of our old episodes, so I will be pulling some from there and releasing them in the main feed once again. So maybe look for those. But like I said, we will be back for Season 5 sometime in February. Until then, please enjoy the rest of Hollow Man.
If we're going to move forward, this is the next logical step.
I'm ready for you. Here goes nothing.
Sebastian, are you in here? So, what's it like being a ghost?
Ghost or dead, I'm very much alive.
The question is, what would you do if you knew you couldn't be seen?
You trust your eyes. You rely on your senses.
Sebastian, this is not funny.
You think you're alone.
Why did you have to go out in public?
You have no idea what it's like. The power of it, the freedom. It's amazing what you can do when you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror anymore. But after he's got you...
Tell us where you are.
Sorry, Linda. You'll never be sure again.
He could be here. He could be anywhere.
There's more to fear than you can see. You have no idea how much fun this is.
We learn now it's been 10 days that he's been invisible, and they're still running tests. Matt says it's hard on everybody. And then he tries to apologize, but Linda shoots daggers at him with her eyes. And I'm like, what is the issue here? What's the tension that we're feeling? Is this feelings with Sebastian? Like a love triangle? What is happening? And then Linda says, it's not enough. Why aren't we doing anything? Matt feels helpless because maybe that's what it is, frustration. He feels helpless because he can't crack what's happening. I don't know why Sebastian's not working on this also right now, since he's the genius.
I can't see my fingers on the keyboard, so I don't know how to play the polka dot video game properly. He's also just I think losing his mind, and he's throwing up, so he's not physically feeling well. But yes, the smartest guy in the room should be developing the cure for himself if it's really an ailment.
Yeah, put some gloves on, type on that keyboard. Why aren't you cracking this open? So he has an outburst in his room, like you said, a nice big outburst. He puts on a hoodie and goes to visit Carter, the lab geek. Tells him he's going out for a couple hours, and he leaves. Carter calls Linda to narc on him.
The responsible thing to do in that situation, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking Invisible Man's going out.
Sebastian goes to his car in the parking garage, and he says hi to the security guard, but he's got the hood and the glasses and the mask and stuff on, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, your car hasn't moved, and I was beginning to worry, and I thought, it's been 10 days, we just learned a minute ago. The security guard didn't worry that he's been down there for 10 days.
Hey, Doc, you doing all right? Your face looks a little different.
Yeah. So Sebastian speeds off. It is nighttime at this point. He pulls up next to a car and he traumatizes a couple of small children.
Love it. It's maybe my favorite scene in the movie. Yeah, a couple kids in the backseat of the car, stopped at a red light. They're making faces at him. He just takes his sunglasses off, shows them his hollow eyes, and then opens his mouth, and the kid's freaking out in the backseat. Oh, I love it so much.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And of course, the parents are like, what is happening? They have no idea. So Linda and Matt leave her place now separately to go find Sebastian. Sebastian has gone to his place, and the first thing he does is what I would do too, is eat a Twinkie.
Yeah, I had one of these on my desk. Cool. All right, well, have a little snackies.
So he sees his attractive female neighbor across the street is home. And this actress is Rona Mitra.
Yep.
And I recognized her from Rise of the Lycans.
Yeah, which oddly enough was like pretty far down the line from this.
Mhm.
Like she's had, I feel like, a better career in the last 5 to 10 years than she did in the immediate wake of this movie. So all of a sudden when I've seen her pop up again, I'm like, oh, I was like, I didn't even realize she kept acting because I hadn't seen her in 15 years after Hollow Man.
Yeah. I wish she had something better to do in this film than just be the victim here, but
Yeah.
still happy to see her. So she takes a shower, she gets out, the doorbell rings, and she throws on this bothers me in movies because I'm just a weirdo. She throws on this little satin robe over her body. She's soaking wet, dripping all over her floor. And I always pick that out in movies because I'm like, you know what a nightmare that is to clean up?
Yeah.
So she realizes nobody's at the door, but then we, through camera motion, see that Sebastian slips into her apartment.
Do you like the POV? Because I was talking to my wife about that because she wasn't really watching the whole thing. But I was like, yeah, so just he's the camera at this point. It's a great way of sort of like removing the character from the screen and still giving us like the opportunity to like see what's going on. It makes it even more voyeuristic as well. So like Verhoeven definitely knew what he was doing with that.
I appreciate that. I'm sure Kevin appreciated the break.
Right.
But I appreciate point of view shots when it's something that is going to be more visually appealing for us to take in. Like someone sneaking up on, like a killer sneaking up on somebody. I like the POV shot because it feels extra creepy to me. Like there's times when it really works for me. This is one of them. So she's sitting titties out at her bedroom vanity, and Sebastian messes with her by moving her mirror. Then he pushes her on the bed, and it escalates so quickly.
Yeah.
So quickly. And he rapes her, but we don't really see much, which great. But I also, okay, so you had mentioned there was an aftermath scene of her like crying.
Yeah.
I almost wish we would have had that in because maybe I don't know if he would have been there for that or not, if stuck around in the room because he's creepy, but to maybe see the effect, like what have I done kind of a moment.
Yeah, well, it's like there's this weird game of like plausible deniability that keeps happening, right? Because we see him grab her, we see him scare her, but like the actual rape is not shown. And then when he goes back and he's talking to Carter, he's like, "Well, there was this one girl, and I scared her a little bit." It's like he's sort of downplaying what he did when recalling it to somebody else, but then still almost like reliving it as a sexual fantasy as he's telling it. So I don't know that we need at that point in the movie to still even entertain the idea that like Sebastian is maybe redeemable or a good character at that point. Like you can just let it go and have him completely be the villain. So when he's recalling the story to Carter, he can either just not say anything or like really tell the full story. And the ground that he chooses, I think it takes a lot of work and seeing the movie many, many times and like seeing Kevin Bacon play the Sebastian pre-invisibility, where I'm just like, oh yeah, like he's definitely a pervert. He's getting off on recalling the assault, even though he's not telling the full experience. Because he likes power, and that's what it is for him.
Not remorseful whatsoever.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
That's a good point. So Linda makes it over to Sebastian's apartment, sees that he has taken his mask off, and Sebastian watches Linda leave the apartment. He goes in and splashes water on his face.
Great effect.
Why?
Because he was in the black suit and they needed to do it. So they're like, yeah, that's his real face. They did that all with like actual effects. So very cool.
Back at the lab, everyone is gearing up with trank guns when Sebastian just waltzes in and tells everybody to calm down. I'm here. Linda gives him a how could you what? Was my question. What? Take your mask off and leave?
Do you think that moment of him splashing the water, because she's in his apartment while he, I presume, was still either in the other apartment with his victim, or he had just gotten back and was just like sitting there enjoying his smugness when she came in and checked. So when he goes to like splash the water on his face. That's the closest he's gotten to seeing his reflection since the moment earlier in the film where he sort of jokingly says, like, I'm looking at myself in the mirror. And then there's a line in the movie too. I don't know exactly sequence wise where it happens, but he's like, you'd be amazed what you could do if you don't have to look at yourself in the mirror every day. And so that moment where he's splashing water on his face is in the mirror in his bathroom. It's like the last glimpse that he sees of himself, and then it like fades off. And so like the moral Sebastian, whatever was left of him, is like dripping off of him now
Washed
into
away.
the sink. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a little poetic. I like that.
Yeah, I'm going to give Verhoeven credit. I think he's a smart guy.
So he says he's project leader. She says, I don't care if you leave again. I'm going to the committee. I don't know if I'm threatening somebody that's mentally unstable at this point.
And invisible.
And invisible, right? Matt correctly points out that you did volunteer and you knew there could be consequences. So quit your woe is me bullshit.
Yeah, good for you, Matt. Finally getting a little bit of a backbone there.
Sarah finds out from Linda the committee did not approve this. Shocker. Linda says, don't worry, you have deniability. Does she? What? I don't think any of them do at this point.
Above my pay grade, I'm just the vet. That's where she punches her in the face, or smacks her at least.
Is that the scene where I don't remember?
I think it is. It might not be. It might be like the next sequence after that, but I think it's like a similar conversation.
Yeah. So for our benefit, Matt and Linda discuss how being gone this long is affecting Sebastian's mind.
Mm-hmm.
We could kind of see it. Lab geek Carter and Sebastian are now alone in the lab. Carter confesses that he'd mess with people if he was invisible too, and presses Sebastian for like more details on his excursion, but Sebastian doesn't mention that he was all rapey, which probably a good idea. So later that night, Linda sleeps peacefully with her windows open. Nope. I don't care how high up you are. She has a nightmare that invisible Sebastian is undressing her while she sleeps, because this is a Verhoeven movie, so we got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. Give us a little bit of skin.
Yeah.
She wakes up to her ringing telephone. Landlines. So it's Matt telling her that he thinks he's solved their little video bubble game and he's at the lab and everyone needs to get there. Protein structures were a dead end. It's all about the radiation. We got it. And 95% it works up. It's almost going to do it and it collapses. So Sebastian gets upset and storms off at this point. And again, my question was, why is Sebastian not working on this? Also, it might have kept his brain more focused and sane, for lack of a better term, if he wasn't left to his own devices to be, creepy and invisible. I don't know. He should have been working on it. That's all I'm saying. Linda follows Sebastian, tells him he's a fucking moron. I don't know where that came from. They argue about Matt's intentions. Sebastian leans in close, turns off a table lamp that's right in his face that had to be hurting his eyes. Why did he get so close to it? This movie does weird little inconsistent things like that, and I have to eagle eye them out. He gets really upset that he can't leave and go explore his gift of invisibility, as he calls it now.
You're damn right it's a gift.
So Linda gets pushed up against the door. Sebastian's getting all handsy, and she's just talking to him so calmly. And I would have been like, bitch, get off of me, and pushed him off.
Right.
But no. She leaves, and next we see him lay in bed and eat another Twinkie. What was the Twinkie budget?
I mean, fortunately, they're cheap, so you could get one of those big boxes. And don't make me reshoot it again, Paul. We got the shot already.
I would prefer chocodiles myself. So he hops up and he sees the security camera set up, and then he heads down to the lab. Nobody notices as he just waves hi and grabs a bunch of lab equipment and goes back to his room.
He is the boss.
Right. Then we cut to an alleyway where we see a bum. I call them bums because, yes, back then they were still called bums. He looked a lot like Bobo Viggo Mortensen. I was like, who is this? Is this Viggo? No, it's not. But he looks a lot like him.
This is Jimmy Skaggs, the wino. Is that right?
Are you serious? Is that what he's called in the credits?
Yeah.
Jimmy, okay.
Wino.
Wino, okay. Well, that's not
He
much
would.
better than bum. I don't feel bad
He
now.
was also in Lethal Weapon as drug dealer number one. He was in Girl Fever as homeless guy. So, oh, he was in Spin Cycle as the homeless guy.
Oh,
So I
he
see
got the
he's typecast.
clearly. Well, he pulls it off. So I don't know if that's a compliment.
Right.
So Sebastian climbs up a fire escape here, spies on Linda in her apartment as Matt shows up, and they get right down to sexy business. Sebastian is upset, smashes her window, and runs off. So Linda calls the lab, and it appears to Frank that Sebastian is still in his bed.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
Ah.
So next, we see an agitated Sebastian wrapped in a blanket, pacing around, mumbling he's going to show them. And I'm like, what? He's totally gone at this point, I guess,
Yep.
mentally.
Yep. He's in full vengeance mode.
He gets so annoyed by the dog barking in its cage that he takes the dog and smashes it against the inside of the cage. Thank God it's just heat vision and it's an invisible dog because he kills it and it splats.
Yeah, of all of the heinous things that he does in this movie, it's interesting that that is the moment where it's like he's fully gone, right? Because this is a dog that he went when it was invisible. He went to that dog for comfort previously and he like pets its little chin. This time he goes to it and he's just like he drops the sheet and is like, "No, I'm taking out all my frustration on this defenseless animal."
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty graphic.
It is horrific. I am a
It's bad.
dog person. I was horrified every time I watch it. But the last few times, I just make myself giggle through it because I'm imagining why can we see the blood, but we never see any poop in the cage?
That
The
poop
dog
is
must-
gonna come out on a thermal camera too.
And he must take a steaming poo. Like, why
Yeah.
isn't that showing up?
There's only
So-
cold poos left in the cage at that point. If you've
So
ever picked
I-
up a cold dog poo, it's like the coldest thing on earth sometimes. It's like you shiver to the bone.
So in the morning, Sarah passes by all of the caged animals and sees that the dog cage, it's quiet. There's no dog making any noise. Now, I didn't understand why the flat line on the monitor above, there's like flat lines, two of them, showing there's no heart reading on the dog. Why did nobody from the lab pick that up? Are those not connected to anything?
No, I guess not.
And the word
No
fatality.
monitoring system. Fatality.
It's the word fatality is blinking. So it's like it's a video game. Sarah goes and asks Sebastian, "Did you hear anything last night?" And he's very cold, more than usual, and is like, I don't know, didn't hear anything. Supposedly now, Frank, Sarah, Matt, and Linda are making sure, watching Sebastian's tape to make sure he was totally accounted for, didn't leave his room. They're supposedly watching this whole thing, like, what, 10 hours of footage? Like, I don't think so. It's like they watched the whole thing in 5 minutes. And then they're like, well, he never left his bed.
Nope. Just
Okay.
hit fast forward and gotta trust him. Gotta trust this guy for some reason.
Right. Well, he's, holding their paycheck right now, I guess. He's the team
I
leader.
guess so.
So later, Linda's home alone. Suspicious Sebastian is there with her. She panics and grabs her keys. And instead of calling the lab to send someone into Sebastian's room, she drives all the way there to check herself to see if he's in bed. Why? So that she can figure out that the camera has been rigged. He's not really there.
Instinct.
Yeah,
Follow her gut.
she kind of knew. So then we cut to Sebastian out for a stroll, and he sees everyone showing up at the lab through the parking garage. Inside at the powwow, Sarah says Sebastian must have killed the dog. Linda says, we need to call the committee. Linda and Matt leave, and they go straight to a committee member's home. This is William Devane.
Yeah, he's great. I wish there would have been more with him, but this movie's already long as it is. So unless you make it like 2.5 hours and really get into more of like the military politics, there's not a lot of room for him, but he's great in this role.
Oh, totally. So Sebastian sneaks up and sees them all having this little powwow in this guy's house. They leave, and the man, his name's Howard, says to his wife, oh, there was a mess up at work and I just need to make some calls. So she goes back to bed. He picks up the landline phone. I still like seeing landlines in these movies. Right. The line goes dead and he sees that his back door is open. So he goes out And instead of being on high alert for the invisible Sebastian that he was just warned about moments ago,
Couldn't possibly be at my house, though, right?
no, he goes and stands right by the swimming pool to light his pipe. Totally calm. Sebastian pushes him into the pool, and we get a really cool smoke show here where right before he's going to get pushed in the pool, he blows smoke out and then you see Sebastian lunge at him.
Yeah, that's great.
I do like that effect a lot. But then it's followed by the underwater CGI, which we get CGI penis in the pool.
That's right.
You know, I clocked it.
Of course. I mean, look, they needed to stay consistent. And if you're going to show his CGI dong once, you got to show it every time.
So what did you think of this underwater fight? Did the CGI take you out of it or were you in?
I feel like similarly, it's noticeably not as smooth as I would expect a movie to be now. But my suspension of disbelief at that point is already gotten me on board. And I'm more thinking about Sebastian just butt naked attacking this guy. Like Viggo Mortensen, was it Eastern Promises where they have the naked bathhouse fight with just like he's very vulnerable, but he has the advantage and he's not even invisible underwater as much. You know, he's kind of available. Or at least he lets the general or whoever the military guy is, like he can see his face so he knows that it's him before he kills him. So again, it's like a power manipulation thing. And then drowning somebody, like he didn't just choose to pick up a knife and stab him when he had advantage. He's like, I want you to see my face, and then I'm gonna drown you, which is like a very, very intimate way to kill somebody. But I guess he gets away with it looking like a drowning.
Well, also he's super strong because he snapped that dog. He killed the dog with his bare hands, and now he's killing this man with his bare hands. And I'm like, does the invisibility give him superhero strength? What is happening?
Didn't he break one of the leather straps on Gurney as well? I mean, I guess he's just like raging out on the invisibility steroids.
Something. I think they did something. So morning in the lab, Matt tells Linda Sebastian's been back since 3 a.m. and they wonder why they haven't heard from the committee yet. Okay, not putting those together. Maybe he is dumb.
I think, look, he can be a science guy, but also not be the best science guy. You know, when he's talking about A's, B's, C's, and D's, he clearly was on the B, C, and D spectrum while Sebastian was getting A's.
So Linda picks up the phone, hits 4 buttons, and then waits half a second before asking to speak to Dr. whoever, Dr. Kramer.
It's got the direct line.
Is that how
4 digits.
Must be. Tells Matt he's dead, and then hits 5 more buttons. It's so bizarre. And I'm like, so she was told that he's deceased like right away. So she calls and asks to speak to a general on the committee, and the phone gets disconnected. So Matt and Linda realize that their security codes now to access the elevator are no longer working. They tell the team what's happening, and Frank hacks, quote unquote, into the lab security system. He's a regular Lex from Jurassic Park.
Right? Look, we got to have a computer hacker on the team.
It was silly. He's like looking at the grid of the security. I'm like, okay. So at this point, I pause it because I'm like, okay, here we go, right? Slam, bang, finish. There's still 30 minutes left.
Yeah, there's a lot of invisible fighting still to be had.
What? Yeah. So they realize all their access codes have been disabled by Sebastian. They all grab infrared goggles and they're going to look for him. Unfortunately, lone straggler Janice gets startled by Sebastian with a rope? Question mark? Is that what is he? Strangles her?
Yeah, it's not a garrote. It's like wire or something.
It's
those things that were stuck to his head. There's lots of wires in the laboratory.
Okay, well, apparently it kills enough to kill her. They all go to Sebastian's room, see he's not there. Linda grabs a device that allows her to talk over the lab loudspeaker directly to Sebastian, wherever he is.
We know you're out there, you invisible prick.
It's so good. He says, well, obviously, I'm not going to let you turn me in. And he's enjoying the freedom of being invisible. He admits he killed Howard, so nobody knows what's happening. Dun, dun, dun. They realize now Janice is also missing, so they all run back to the lab. And explain this to me. They're all dumb, I guess. Maybe that's the answer. They all think that this heat signature they see standing perfectly still in the locker is going to be Sebastian, not Janice.
Yeah,
What?
it's like confirmation bias. Like they want it to be Sebastian and they want it to be over easy and quickly. So kind of like, oh yeah, that's gotta be him, right? That makes the most sense.
Yeah, no. It's Janice's dead body, so thank God nobody quickly pulled the trigger and tranked her. Waste one on it. So Sarah gets upset here and slaps Linda.
That's where it is.
Loving a good bitch slap.
Good. She deserved to get smacked way earlier.
Oh, absolutely.
By Sarah, yeah. She had every right to do it earlier.
So Matt says Sebastian is obviously going to kill everybody. Linda tells Frank to try. Obviously, we're all dead, right?
Uh-huh.
Linda tells Frank, restore the access codes if you can. And then she tells Matt, we've got to take Sebastian down. That's all there is to it. Sarah has her thermals on and a trank gun and is protecting Frank at the computer. Okay.
Sure.
Upstairs, Matt turns on motion detectors for what appears to be inside the security system computer that they've hacked.
And did they explain how the motion detector will detect an invisible man?
That's what I was going to ask you.
I was like, look, I know I was watching with the commentary on, so like I couldn't quite hear everything that was happening, but I was like, would that even work? I mean, I thought motion sensors pick up on the actual physical movement. You know, when you wave your hand in front of a light or something, it turns on. But unless it's reading heat signatures from section to section, then I guess you could make it work somehow, but I don't think that's how most motion sensing technology is designed.
And I'm not a motion sensor scientist, so I don't know.
Yeah, me neither.
I thought it was fun to watch the little triangles move around like a video game.
It was, yeah. So look, we get the triangles. Just gotta take what we get.
They have walkie-talkies to communicate, so Linda locks herself in upstairs to guide them on Sebastian's location. Lab guy, okay, that must be Carter in my notes, and Matt split up. Each of them have goggles and a trank gun. Matt and Carter meet back up saying, oh my gosh, we must have missed him. Where'd he go? And then in a not tense sequence whatsoever to me, they shoot a pipe because they don't know the difference between steam and a solid object.
They're like, look, there's just heat over there. Fuck it. Maybe we get lucky and he's over there.
So this next bit is nuts. It goes so fast. Carter's lifted up, being choked by Sebastian, who is lying naked on these pipes, which must be hot, right above him.
Yeah. And look, back to the super strength. Kevin Bacon is maybe 150 pounds. And Greg Grunberg, who plays Carter, is a significantly bigger guy. Figure, just being conservative, 200 pounds. Kevin Bacon lifts him off the ground with one hand around his neck and then is able to toss him like a rag doll onto now a broken piece of pipe, or I don't know what exactly it was, but something that stabs his neck, and then it's very, very bloody.
Yeah, that was literally my note, as he tosses him like a rag doll. So how strong is he at this point?
Yeah, he's getting stronger each day. He's more invisible.
It's so crazy. But I guess, in fake science, quote unquote, I guess you can make your rules up, do whatever you want.
I saw Dolph Lundgren lift a car in a movie, so he was just a regular person in that movie too. So who knows? Adrenaline's a hell of a drug.
That I would buy, though. Yeah. Have you seen Dolph Lundgren? That I would buy.
In fact, I have seen Dolph Lundgren.
You've got a whole month dedicated to the Adonis that is Dolph Lundgren. So I thought it was funny that Matt makes such a big deal in the beginning competition when they're going after the gorilla with Sebastian, that he's a crack shot and that's why he's willing to lose $10, put it on the line because he's such a good shot. But here in this scene, it's tranquilizer darts, but still he misses. You're a crack shot. Why are you missing?
Not so much.
No. So he radios Linda, who tells him Sebastian is right there, right in front of you. So instead of putting on the goggles, he just shoots wildly at a pipe. Why didn't you put your goggles on when she said he's right on top of you?
He's like, I'm going to get lucky, okay? This is what it takes, is luck of the draw. If I shoot randomly, it's like, look, if you had a Uzi or something, that would make sense. But this is not an Uzi. This is a single shot dart gun.
An Uzi of trank darts. Oh, I need that in my life. people piss me off, look out. It's not fatal, right? You're just knocking them out. Long line at the DMV.
Oh, yeah.
Frank Uzi. There you go. Next. So Sebastian lunges out of the steam and Matt takes off running after he shoves him, which I don't understand that. I never understand. Okay, I'm just going to say this now. The pressure advantage when you're fighting a villain. This is very prevalent in movies like Scream and things like that, because I just discussed that last month. When you've got the villain right in front of you and you can take a shot, a kick, a punch, a stab, what have you, but you don't. You shove them and run away. Why aren't you pressing your advantage? He's right there. I never understand that in horror movies.
Yeah, I mean it's a big pet peeve when it comes to horror movies. I understand it. You're, drawing out the movie for the conclusion that you wanted, but at least have them try to be opportunistic. And it happens in Scream a lot where like Ghostface will be immobile on the ground and it's like, just stab him right there. Just
Double tap.
just end the story. So at least if you try to stab him and fail, like, oh, you tried and he catches your hand or like dodges out of the way, like at least you made the effort to get the one up on him. But
right.
Yeah, it's fight or flight and everybody likes flight.
That's what gives us that extra 25 minutes of our finale.
Right? It's a chase throughout the rest of the movie at that point.
So large doors close, trapping them in the corridor. As Linda tells him, Sebastian is in there with you. Now, while holding the goggles in the same hand as his radio, he says, where? Put the goggles on, sir.
Okay, he's a dumbass is what we figured out. Like, Matthew is not smart, and that's okay. You can work in medicine without being brilliant.
He's pretty, so it's okay.
He's a nurse, maybe, and it's just like, yeah, he's just there to help out, and he can do basic EMT stuff.
So he finally puts the goggles on, but then they all realize Sebastian has now turned the heat up. It's steaming heavily in this corridor.
That's right.
Now, steam and heat signature, is that the same thing? Because he's trying to mask his body signature. I mean, I'm no scientist, but
it wouldn't be identical, but I guess if you could raise the ambient room temperature to like 97, 98, you wouldn't be able to really see him under, like, theoretically.
Oh, so what you're saying, Nick, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that alien Romulus stole from Hollow Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
All good movies should steal from Hollow Man. As Hollow Man stole from Rear Window.
So Sebastian fucks with Matt by playing Marco Polo. I find this very amusing every watch. Because I probably would too. Matt shoots again, wasting his last dart by missing Sebastian. He knocks Matt down. Linda opens the door, grabs Matt, and pulls him through. Linda to the rescue. I guess she is the final girl in this, isn't she?
Yeah.
Because Matt goes out of commission here pretty quick.
He does, and she's got to drag his ass around.
So Frank and Sarah find Carter bleeding out. Sarah says, he needs blood. So you stay with him and I'm going to go get blood. What? Take him. Both of you lift him up and take him back to the lab.
He's too heavy, but not for Sebastian.
I do like, he's from Heroes. Greg Grunberg. Yeah. I forgot. And I think a movie called Big Ass Spider that I watched recently. He's gone to like B-movie hell, but boy, is he a delight in this before he gets hurt.
Yeah, he's a longtime character actor.
Yeah.
I think he was on like a medical show as well. Not
Probably.
Scrubs, but like something like that. Oh, Felicity is the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So Sarah, without her goggles on, goes to grab blood. Before she can leave with it, Sebastian comes in and shuts the door. She panics. So what do you do in this situation? Like anyone would, you grab the blood bags and tear them open and throw them on the floor.
I mean, it's pretty smart in fairness, but it's not as smart as just using the goggles that are readily available all over the place. Why did any of them at any point, once they've deemed Sebastian an actual threat, ever not have their goggles on? That's the real question. If you need regular vision, it's got a little flip screen. You just flip the thermal part up and you've got regular goggles. So yeah, it's just a little script convenience to make things a little more stressful.
I think so, because this is clearly a flawed plan because Sebastian's behind her. So you throw all the blood in front of you want. He tranks her. She manages to splash him with blood, which looks pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
And then he snaps her neck like a twig.
Yeah, unfortunately.
She's gone. So Matt and Linda find Frank and Carter. Carter dies. So Matt, Linda, and Frank run back to the bloodbath room. No Sarah. Frank sprays a fire extinguisher into the air to locate Sebastian, which I thought was so smart. A clever move.
Finally thinking with his head.
But he turns around and Sebastian stabs him through with a crowbar.
Yes.
Is that what that is?
It is.
Ooh.
Because, yeah, you definitely need one of those in the science lab.
Yeah. Brutal, though. Good kill.
It's in case the gorilla gets out of control and you're out of trank darts.
Oh, okay. I knew there was a reason. They're not changing tires down there in the lab.
They're not.
So Matt and Linda get shoved into cold storage. Is that what that is? Okay, because
there's a meat locker in there, something like that.
I found it odd that there was electrical equipment that works in this cold storage.
Yep, that's where we keep the defibrillator. Makes the batteries last longer.
Is that a real thing?
I don't know, but I've heard that people keep. I've heard people keep batteries in the refrigerator to like make them last longer.
Oh, well, maybe that is what they're doing then. Okay, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
So Matt is lightly wounded by Sebastian in the gut with the crowbar. Sebastian cranks the cold temp to a cool 45 degrees and says bye-bye, and off he goes. You can survive, I Googled it, shocker, at most 3 hours at this
before hypothermia kicks
temperature.
in.
Right. So I'm like, okay, the clock's a ticking. I'm going to keep track of this.
Yeah.
So Linda duct tapes Matt's wound. Okay. Now, he's got a gaping wound on the front of his belly. Why wouldn't you pinch it shut and do like a butterfly like use the tape to like seal it up? No, she just wraps it around his whole midsection. It seemed wildly inefficient for keeping that from bleeding.
Well, she did have a full roll of duct tape, I think, at that point. So
in cold storage.
Got to keep the duct tape in there too. Keeps the adhesive nice and tight.
So now you're just making shit up. So Sebastian puts his latex mask on and gets dressed and starts drawing eyebrows on. Before we cut away.
You should have had one of your friends do the eyebrows earlier. You shouldn't be doing your own eyebrows at that point, Sebastian, but he's using a Sharpie.
Sharpie eyebrows. I've seen some of those on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So Linda tries busting the plexiglass window, I guess. Doesn't look like glass.
Yeah, sometimes it's like that, the fiberglass that has sort of like the metal in it so that when it shatters, it doesn't like shatter into pieces. It kind of like breaks in place.
Okay. Well, it doesn't work. It cracks. She gives up. She's crying. We see Sebastian put on a hat and a wig.
Where did the wig come from?
Where did the wig come from?
He got it last time he left the cave.
So back in the deep freeze, we see the temperature is now dropping rapidly below 30. How, when all he did was set it to 45, but okay. Matt and Linda are covered in icicle chips, which I love, even though it's silly. Linda takes a drawer handle and some wire and the defibrillator and makes a large magnet. She MacGyvers the hell out of this.
She sure does. I mean, very, very resourceful. Would that work in does the science hold up? I don't know, but I'll trust her. She's the second smartest person in this movie. And if she says it's a magnet, I'm fine with that.
So Sebastian grabs sulfuric acid and some other little goodies from the lab and makes some tiny explosive capsules.
Mm-hmm.
Linda uses her giant magnet to get the door open, slides the bar, which, so smart. She drags a sleeping, passed out Matt out and lights a fire in a barrel in this room full of combustible material. Please tell me you clocked that.
I did not see the explosive materials, but now,
So
as I finished
much.
the director commentary, I'm going to have to watch for that.
Oh my God. One of which, the whatever explosive combustible, I don't know what it is, she grabs one on her way out of the room. So now.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Timers in movies and TV shows. I always have a thing, and this is my weird eagle eye thing that I do when I watch movies, which is why I had to do a podcast, because there's so many things about movies that bother me. I have to talk about them. So timers in movies and TV. Is it just me? It can't be just me. I always watch, and when a timer starts a countdown and then we cut away, I'm still kind of doing the countdown in my head to see if they do it realistically. Like 10 seconds have elapsed. When we go back to the timer, it better show that 10 seconds have elapsed. Like I want it to be real,
Yeah.
not
I guess
bullshit movie time.
I'm not super strict about it, but I also don't want it to be anything where it really messes with my like suspension of disbelief. If like we've
Okay.
gone and it's been 10 minutes and we come back and it's like 4 seconds I'm like, oh no. But like at least get me in the ballpark where, you can stretch it a little bit, but not too much.
Okay. So Sebastian puts a shit ton of these little explosive capsules in a machine and sets a timer for 5 minutes. He breaks the keyboard and leaves, and we are at 4:45, so 15 seconds have elapsed there already. He gets in the elevator, but Linda shows up and uses this flammable canister and a flame and lights Sebastian on fire.
It blowtorched his ass.
Good Lord. So we get a nice mix here, though, with the CGI of practical effects and a stuntman, which I always appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
He jumps out. He's on fire. She's lighting him up. Doesn't stop. I'm yelling, go, get him.
Yeah, do his face.
Right? So he runs off down the hall after the tank craps out on her. And I do like that she uses the last burst to set the sprinkler system off. So we see him running down the hall and his body's turning to ash and like falling away, making him become invisible again.
Yeah.
But then the water's also sprinkling on him, so you can kind of still see him. It's kind of a cool scene. I don't hate the CG in that scene.
Yeah, I like the Crispies coming off of him as he runs away.
So water's pouring down and he sneaks up behind Linda, slaps her, slams her head into a pipe, and calls her a bitch. So he's about done.
Yeah.
You lit me on fire. So he kicks her and puts his foot on her throat. And then we see a crowbar get raised behind him. And it's Matt coming to the rescue. He hits Sebastian on the head, knocks him down. Instead of making sure that this homicidal maniac is dead or incapacitated, they drop the crowbar and walk away.
Use the pointy end.
Double tap.
Stab his ass.
So, yeah, they're just walking off. There's still an imminent threat there, but it's fine. So, of course, Sebastian grabs the crowbar. He does the villain move, which I hate, which is making a loud noise to announce himself sneaking up behind you. So
defeats the purpose of being invisible.
Yes, because they hear you, they turn around and they catch the crowbar, and it gets directed into an electrical box and thus electrocutes Sebastian because of the water and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of how I read that, because I don't know if that would do it to you without the water.
Yeah, well, they needed a reason for him to like start being slightly visible again, if I remember correctly. And earlier in the film, when he first goes invisible, you see Elisabeth Shue like rubbing his chest, and you see like the electrical sort of field around his body. And then I think the same thing happened with the gorilla as they use the paddles. You can see like all of a sudden it sparks, and it's like you can see the full gorilla for a second, and then it goes back after the defibrillator. So something about him getting electrocuted like changed his molecules enough for him to start being slightly visible again.
Unexplained sciencey shit. I'm going to roll with it. It's fine.
Yeah, electricity.
So Matt and Linda run back to the lab. They find all the explosive capsules, and the timer says 28 seconds. So they did all that shit really fast. They leave the lab with 20 seconds left. And so you mean to tell me at this point now, here's the timer, they make it down the corridor into the access ladder and partway up the shaft, 8 floors it looks like, in 20 seconds. No.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch.
No, they don't. Then the explosion occurs. The elevator shoots up past them in this corridor, and they move to the side to avoid it. A nice, tense, close call, I think. Well done. Mm-hmm. Then the flames shoot up, and they happen to stop right below their feet. They knew exactly how many floors to go up so they could avoid the flames.
They're like, look, Sebastian's crazy, but he's only going to make sure that he blows up the first 8 feet of the sub-basement or the first 8 floors. So we got to get higher than that. Close
call number 2 for them. Yeah, at this point. So next, the elevator decides to fall back down, but the brakes kick in and it malfunctions, however, but then magically stops on the wall right above them. Close call number 3. Wow. They climb up and around it. Sebastian, looking like, again, Frank from Hellraiser, which is really cool that we get to see him like this.
Yeah.
Grabs Linda's ankle, Matt is so far up the ladder at this point ahead of her that he can't get down to her fast enough. He was injured. How is he moving so fast?
Well, yeah, okay. I get that he's injured, and so maybe she's like, you should go first because you've got like a gaping stomach wound. But Matt, like, this is the woman you love. Are you not gonna like make sure that she gets up the ladder before you? So that way, if there is the ankle grabbing villain at the bottom, that he grabs your ankle instead?
Exactly. Not very chivalrous.
Not
But
in that moment, no. He's
he-
lost a lot of blood.
he he probably did after a shitty duct tape job.
Mm-hmm.
So Sebastian has hold of her. They fall off the ladder and land on top of the elevator. And he's fucking superhuman at this point. So he's fine.
Super fine.
Been burned. So at this point, I wrote in my notes, I love this movie, but my God, this third act is taking too long.
It is long.
Let's
That
just
is
kill
fair.
him already. So the elevator starts to fall and then stops. Matt can't get down to them because the ladder breaks. Sebastian says he wants one last kiss from Linda for old time's sake. Why? Is
Pervert's gonna be a pervert.
pervert's gonna perv?
Look, my sexual assault count only got to 4 at this point, so I need one final one
Yeah.
before
it's
the movie ends here.
clearly just an excuse for her to lean in and reach around him and grab a bundle of cables so that she can hit the emergency release that's right on top with her foot. I don't know elevators. I'm assuming that's a thing.
Seems kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
Release lever with your foot.
But Sebastian falls with this elevator and down into the flames below, and she tells him to go to hell. So he's on his way, I guess.
Yeah, he is indeed.
Falls in all his CGI glory, screaming all the way down. So then she climbs up to meet Matt, and they hang there on this ladder. He's lost blood. They must be exhausted after all this fighting. And they're just hanging there on the ladder, hugging, like, oh, okay, we're good.
We did it. We can finally take a breath because we're pretty convinced that Sebastian's not coming back from that, at least.
And then we fade out and back on to see firefighters on the scene outside as Matt and Linda get escorted out of the building. They're the only two to survive. They get put in an ambulance and credits begin to roll as we fade to black. And then we get a solid 7.5 minutes of credits because, my God, there was a lot of CGI work on this movie.
Yeah, indeed.
And I did notice in the credits, I always like to pay attention, that no animals were harmed. All the animal action was monitored. And I like that they add scenes appearing to place animals in jeopardy were simulated. Well, thank God for that. You mean no CGI animals were killed?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think too that like there was just a time in movie history where they're like, well, we're just gonna kill an animal for this shot that we need, and this had to be implemented in Hollywood in order to be like, no, we're protecting animals from this meaningless abuse.
Do not even get me started on somebody convincing me, because I love horror movies, to watch Cannibal Holocaust
Yeah.
or Green Inferno.
Yeah.
Where animals are, I'm like, mm-mm. So the last little bit of thing in the credits I thought was funny was it said official soundtrack now available for purchase. And I was like, what? Who's buying the soundtrack?
I might have to. The Jerry Goldsmith score is really good. I think I might just listen to it like on Spotify or something. I don't know if I'd buy it, but if my only option is purchase, then maybe.
Good point.
It's his last one, so.
That's true. Do you have soundtrack CDs or albums where you just are in the mood and you put one on?
Yeah,
just
I rarely am just in the mood and throw it on, but I do have some of them, and it's like I'll get it, I'll listen to it, and then most of the time it's like if I want to listen to it, I'll stream it, something like that.
All right, well, that is Hollow Man.
That is.
If you don't have any more thoughts about it, at the end of every show, I do like to jump to 3 questions with my guests. So did you have anything else?
There's a Hollow Man 2 with Christian Slater that I have not seen, but I guarantee it's significantly worse than this movie. And I need to see it probably as soon as possible because it is Christian Slater and Peter Facinelli. So
okay,
I can assume that at least the 2 of them are fine, but it was like a straight to video sequel. It looks like it's on Tubi right now. Yeah, I might give it a shot.
Okay, so let's jump to 3 questions.
Cool beans. Let's go.
Question 1. Have you seen Hollow Man 2 from 2006, starring Christian Slater and Peter Facinelli?
I have not. Spoiler alert.
So the plot is a Seattle detective and a biologist are on the run from a dangerous invisible assassin. So I did watch it.
Ooh,
It's on Tubi, you're correct. Hour 30 runtime, so nice crisp 90. I like that.
nice.
Peter Facinelli, if y'all don't know, most known for Twilight and was married to Jenny Garth. I don't recognize anybody else in the film. Christian Slater gets the cushy gig that Kevin Bacon thought he was going to have. He's in 2 scenes, and the
That's
rest
just
of it is
voice
all
acting.
voice acting. No Christian Slater except for 2 scenes. So I would say pass.
Fair enough.
Watch it if you want, but it's terrible. It's not good. It's basically a cop movie that just starts right at the beginning with no backstory, no character explanation, nothing.
All
B
right.
movie, cop movie. But anyway, okay. And then also, I could think of a couple other Invisible movies to mention and ask you if you've seen. So we mentioned Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase earlier.
I think I've seen pieces of it because I remember like some moments of it, but I think it's probably something that like I saw on cable, so I didn't see it at the beginning because I don't have a recollection of the entire movie.
Okay, Daryl Hannah also in it, and I don't think it's streaming anywhere. It's tough to find, but
Hmm.
it is, in my opinion, an excellent Invisible Man story.
Okay.
Well done. What about the Invisible Man that Lee Wanell just did in 2020? What do you think of that
I
one?
have seen that one. It was pretty good. I prefer Hollow Man, but I understand why people like that movie. I mean, a lot of it is Elizabeth Moss's performance and sort
Mhm,
of making it a more narrowly defined character type of horror movie.
mhm.
I would still prefer Hollow Man though.
I'm with you 100%. I did not care for that Invisible Man take. I didn't like the whole abuse angle and everything with all that. And I am looking forward to Lee Wanell's werewolf.
Yeah, Wolfman.
Yeah,
I mean, I like Christopher Abbott a lot. And what is Julie Garner?
that sounds right.
Yeah, from Ozark.
Well, that's going to be, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, question 2. What would you change in this film, if anything, be it cast or anything about this film to make it more enjoyable for you than it already is?
To make it more enjoyable, I think I would have gone more towards specifically sci-fi horror, like sort of leave the thriller element out of it and really make this like a tried and true sci-fi horror film, get into really the fear that surrounds like developing a science like this, which kind of takes a back seat to like the pacing and the thriller elements of it. But there was a kind of like throwaway thing that Verhoeven and them talked about behind the scenes of like, I think it was in the script where they had, I don't know if it was actually made it to like a read where they did a take of it, but it was Kevin Bacon's character saying or implying that he could have an erection constantly, and then Verhoeven just like actually thinking through all that. He's like, well, the MPAA wouldn't let us do that. So it's like that's the reason he went into this long detailed thing about like flaccid versus erect penises and like how you can show them. So if you really wanted to make this like the most pervy version of the movie, it's like every time you see Kevin Bacon in Heat Vision, he's got a boner. I mean, look, it gave him super strength, like superhuman durability. Maybe it gave him super erections too.
Super boners.
Yeah.
So for me, I would want super boners. Okay, I'm gonna just say it. But I would also want tight 90 runtime as well. I felt like this movie does get a little too long at points. I'm like, let's hurry up here.
Yeah, you could have gone into the editing room, and I think, in complete fairness to servicing the plot, you could get 10 minutes off of this movie pretty easily without really like losing a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel where you're coming from, and that gets it down to like an hour 45, and then you're not too far off.
Yeah. All right. And for question 3, usually I do some kind of a game like a Marry Fuck Kill or
Okay.
a Where Would They Be Now, but only 2 people survived, so that's not much fun. So for you, I've devised, we're gonna play rapid fire.
Ooh. All right.
So I've got 15 terms or words associated with this film and the people involved.
Oh my God, we're gonna do some word association.
So
I've stopped doing this on my show only because I forgot. But yeah, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna try to like really give you the first thing that comes to my head. So
that's kind of
please,
what I'm hoping.
please forgive me in
Okay.
advance.
All right, we'll start out easy. Hollow,
Man,
bacon,
love it.
invisible,
Penis.
Goonies,
Not my favorite.
elevator,
Miniatures.
gorilla,
Frightening.
Karate Kid,
Machio, baby.
Twinkies,
Ho-hos.
heat vision,
Use it.
swimming pool,
Mm, do better.
fast cars,
Stick shift.
peeping Tom,
I get it.
CGI penis,
Make it bigger.
Verhoeven,
The best.
and tranquilizers.
Aim better.
Oh, those are better than I would have done.
Oh, I'm gonna
Good
regret
job.
listening back to that.
All right. Well, that is wrapping up our discussion on Hollow Man. Nick, I want to thank you so much for taking this trip with me.
My pleasure. When I saw that I had the opportunity to do it, I jumped at the chance. Then I got sick, and so I just kind of circled there for a little bit. But I'm really glad that we were able to make this happen because I love this movie so much that I'm gonna go watch the director's commentary and finish up on that when I'm done. And I
I
watched
need
an
to.
entire version of this movie with no sound effects, no dialogue, just Jerry Goldsmith and the score with him occasionally talking about it.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it when you have a guilty pleasure movie like
It
this.
is.
So, Nick, if you want to tell everybody about your show and where they can find you.
Well, I guess my primary show now is Bad Movies We Love. We're doing Dolph Lundgren month right now. So we just released an episode on I Come in Peace, which is a great sci-fi movie,
Such a good movie.
aka Dark Angel, aka Explosions, the movie. But yeah, it's just really celebrating Dolph Lundgren because I realized so many of the other movies that I did had Dolph Lundgren in them, and he's like a really big part of the 80s and 90s action scene, even though he wasn't Van Damme or Stallone or Schwarzenegger. So I wanted to like give him some credit where credit is due, and we're going to be going into December with Dystopian December, so we're going to do some dystopian films. January, we're cycling back to a bunch of first-time guests and sort of freewheeling the movies, no real theme, locking anything down. I've got the Shice podcast back up and running, which was the first show where Bad Movies We Love actually started. I was just on my friend's podcast called Bitchin' About Food. I helped them incubate that show on the Shice podcast as well, and now that's their own thing, and they're doing well. So it was nice to catch up and chat with them.
Hopefully they cut you in on that.
Right? X Friends, which is a show that I did with Seth from Movie Friends, where we talk about the X-Men 97 animated series. And it's going to be a while before they get to season 2. So I might do something in between with like the movies or maybe one of the other TV shows like Legion or something like that. Got a lot of things going on. Still developing another show that we really haven't gotten off the ground just yet, my wife and I. So yeah, that's why we do This Week at the Movies over on the Shice podcast, just to keep us like sharp and to give us some practice and talking about media and like working on our media literacy as we spin the wheels on that one. So that's once a week. X Friends is just on hiatus until we figure out what's next. Bad Movies We Love is typically once a week. So
And where can they find those? Is it on Spotify and all the places?
they are on all of the places. So yeah, if you just type in Bad Movies We Love in your search engine of choice, you should find the podcast. Shice podcast should be also be self-explanatory. It's SHEIST. And I don't think there's another one out there. So fortunately, that username has stayed friendly for like 25 years. And then yeah, X Friends, X dash Friends, they're all everywhere. That's the point of me paying my podcast host, is for them to do all the distributing of that stuff. So in theory, they're everywhere. There might be a couple of services where they're stragglers, but as far as I know, it's on Good Pods and Pocket Cast and Podcast Addict and Spotify and Apple, and not quite on YouTube Music. I got to figure out how to do that, but getting there.
All right. So if anyone's interested in checking out Hollow Man at the time of this recording, it was available on Amazon Prime, Hulu, and YouTube. And Hollow Man 2 is on Tubi. So you can check those out if you dare. All right, Nick, thank you so much. This was a joy.
It
And
was.
next time, maybe I can pop back over and visit you in your neck of the woods.
Oh, absolutely. You just let me know. I know we had some movies that were like sort of in my notes of like stuff that we could potentially cover in the future, and there was nothing that was disqualified. So I just got to look back at my little notebook wherever it is, find that stuff.
I just remembered right when I said it to you. Ghosts of Mars.
Oh, that's right. That's a
All
good
right,
one. Ice
so-
Cube, Natasha Henstridge, Ghost, Demon Space. Love
Yes, please.
it.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. And you know where to find us. Listen for the tag at the end. And until next time, goodbye.
And finally, Sebastian throws him into the pool to be the first human kill of the movie. And they don't realize that one of their teammates was left behind. He uses the blood to stain him, even though he's much stronger, and ends up killing her. And Sebastian takes advantage of this to hurt Carter and leave him dying. Meet Frank, who tells him that Sarah left because otherwise his friend was gonna die, but it took so long and he's already dead. But in an oversight, Sebastian kills Frank from behind. And there, Sebastian tries to kiss her, but she takes advantage of that distraction to grab the cable that held the elevator and press the lever to unhook it, ending once and for all with Dr. Kane and all of his experiments. They will also kill the mouse who was eaten by a gorilla at the start of the film, a fly that Sebastian Kane crushed with his hand in the middle of the film, and a dog who was messily beaten to death by Sebastian Kane also in the middle of the film. So the final kill count is 6, and if you want to count the animals, it would be a total of 9. Keep the number you like the most, okay?
Oh, okay.
Hey listeners, Movie Miss here, saying we know you have a lot of options when it comes to podcasts, so we want to thank you so much for listening to ours. Please make sure to find us on our socials and join us, be part of our bad movie conversations. We want to chat with you. We're on Facebook with an official page, as well as a Let's Talk Turkeys discussion group, where you can talk with other like-minded individuals who like bad movies. We're on Instagram at Let's Talk Turkeys. Our Twitter handle is at Gobble Podcast. That's GOBBLEPODCAST. And of course, you can always email us direct. We would love to get suggestions from you of movies you would like us to cover. If you want to be a guest on the show, we would love that. So directly, that's Let's Talk Turkeys, all one word, at yahoo.com.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.